Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. I think this one's going to be really fast. You can see from the background, I am back in the basement. Got back from Danzig last night, so I'm still a little. I don't know if jet lagged is really the right word because I don't have like a set sleep schedule. Like my job is I kind of have two jobs, but one I really do on my own time, and the other job I'm able to kind of change my schedule every week. So like I know like where my sleep schedule is, so I don't have there. I'm not saying there aren't times that I have to wake up early, but then like I since I only work 4 hours a day, um, or 5 hours a day, it depends. I just go to sleep afterwards, so it's not really. I don't know if jet lagged is really the right thing. Whatever it is, I feel tired as shit. Um, Yep, good to be back in the States. Good to sleep in my own bed again. But anyway, I was on vacation, obviously, with myself and, my brother's family. And my sister's family was there for a little bit, and then they wanted to go see, what's that city in, like, the southern part of Poland? And they, like, Krakow or something? I don't know why they wanted to see it, but they did. Uh, they left, like, midway through. And my brother's family's actually still over there. Um, Yeah, so I mentioned before, like my brother's family. One of my nephews like isn't even 1 years old, even isn't even one yet. So like I don't think like it would be possible for him to be like into anything like unsavory or even savory. But like my 3-year-old nephew, who really is a great kid, he's like gotten really into MGTOW mostly from this show that he watches, Pete the Cat. And I was looking through, he was watching this show called The Cat in the Hat. And, I was watching it and I was like, there's like some MGTOW shit in this too. But like, I didn't really, but it wasn't like, whereas Pete the Cat, it's like they really throw it at you. Like it's just like, like really like obviously hardcore MGTOW stuff. Like the Cat in the Hat thing was there was, there was definitely MGTOW stuff in it, but I wouldn't say that the show was about MGTOW. I mean, it was mostly like, it seemed like mostly just a kid's show. So so I did some research on it, and apparently that this show, The Cat in the Hat, was made by this guy called Dr. Seuss. I don't know if it was a pen name or what, but he wrote a bunch of books that were sort of like a bunch of like proto MGTOW books, like that back in like I think like the 60s or 70s or something. But it was like weird because it was like MGTOW before there was MGTOW, and it actually I think kind of inspired the later MGTOW movement. So, but here's the weird. So anyway, I knew that my nephew had some of his books, so I was just looking. I wanted to see if there was like a lot of MGTOW stuff in them, and I was looking through them, and most of I haven't read all of them, or like even gone through. I think I went through like 3 or 4, but most of them, the ones that I saw, all looked like they were, very heavily MGTOW. They really toned it down for the show. The show really isn't about MGTOW. It's got some MGTOW stuff in it, but that's it. But the books are like 100% about MGTOW. But anyway, here's the weird thing, right? He wrote all these MGTOW books, but then he wrote this one sales book. He actually wrote a sales book, which I had never even heard of, and called Green Eggs and Ham. And so I looked it up because I was like, it was weird. Why would somebody write a MGTOW book and a sales book? And I looked it up, but there's a lot of salespeople who actually do talk about it. And even like I'm assuming that this person was exaggerating, but he was talking. Some guy was saying it was like the best sales book of all time. I was like, dude, I don't think so. Like, I'm not an expert in sales, by any means. I do it for a living, but I'm not great at it. And so I just wanted to talk about since apparently people do think that it's like a good sales book. From what I've seen, I'm not seeing anybody criticizing it from that end. And the so let me just start off at the very beginnings, like some of my philosophy of sales, and like I think how it just so you know where I'm coming from. In my opinion, sales is two separate things, often called one. Like people just think of sales, but I think of sales as a two-part thing. There's sales prospecting and sales closing, and the two are just. It would be an exaggeration to say that one of them has nothing to do with the other, but they don't they're different. They're just separate skills enough that you could be good at one and bad at the other. You know, it could be like me. I'm not trying to brag, but I think I'm really good at the prospecting part of sales. I know that I'm bad at the closing part of sales, and I know that there's people who are the reverse. And then I admit that there's other stuff that's kind of like in the middle. But I overall, like, if you there are the different polarities and stuff. So the the this Green Eggs and Ham book is about like the whole sales cycle, like the prospecting, and the closing. And it comes from a very, like, what's called a Sandler method, which is it's a type of sales thing that in the Sandler sales system works. Okay, I mean, the fact that the guy who did it was making, like, was one of the most successful salesmen in American history, and you know, the system, people are going to training and stuff because they're getting results with it. So I'm not here to tell you that the Sandler sales system doesn't work. What I am saying is that it's not the way that I like to sell. It's just this, and granted, I'm only focused on the first part, the prospecting. So for closing, like, if I ever get into like more of the closing aspect of sales, I mean, I'm certainly open to training how to do it the Sandler way, but I'm right as of now, it's not a way I'm comfortable with selling, and it's not it's not something that I really have even the time or wherewithal to. Well, I probably do have the time, if I'm being honest, to like focus on learning how to do it properly. Because that's like, even if it works, it's something that's not going to come natural to me, and I don't want to be losing sales in the meantime. In any case, I'm not doing any closing right now, so the second part isn't relevant. But okay, so this Green Eggs and Ham book, basically you have this guy called Sam I Am, and he's trying to sell green eggs and ham. Now we don't know anything about his margins. We don't know like how many he's looking to sell or where he finds his prospects or anything. So I think right there, there's already like some real kind of, it's like an incomplete type book, because like, to me, like, if I'm prospecting, the first thing I'm doing is like doing research to see, like, are these people who are going to like even potentially want what I'm selling. And I think that Sam I Am is more, I think that the Green Eggs and Ham book is more talking about like door-to-door sales, or like, which, if this book was written, I think it was in the 60s or 70s, I don't know. So I guess apparently door-to-door salesmen still exist. I've never seen one, but they supposedly still exist. But, you know, just going up to people's houses and knocking on doors, I think that was bigger in the 60s or 70s, but that's not any kind of like structured prospecting, you know, like you're just randomly hitting everybody up. So that's not how I sell. Okay. And there's certain, and it would, for the type of product I sell, it wouldn't even work. So I can't really comment on that part, but there are things that that method not only is effective, but it's the most effective for what you're going to sell. However, to sell a product like Green Eggs and Ham, I think that might be a little too niche to just say, like, I'm going to just go and hit up everybody. But it could be like some kind of creative license that he was saying, like, well, let's just assume that this is a qualified prospect or something, you know. That's the only way I look at it, because to me, you're not being complete if you don't talk about like how you're going to decide who to target in the first place. But I think, like I said, I think that might be just kind of beyond the scope of the book. So let's just put that aside for now, and then say that he's doing a scattershot approach. He's just gonna canvas, and he's gonna hit everybody and try to pitch this Green Eggs and Ham stuff. Well, okay, fine, fair enough. But I think that there's problems right from the get-go. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to say that everything that Dr. Seuss says to do in this book is wrong. But I think that a lot of wrong stuff happened. So the first thing, the way Sam I Am introduces himself is he doesn't say anything. He just walks past this nameless character who's often just called the Grump. And he's holding a sign saying, first it says, I am Sam, and then Sam I Am. It's like, dude, you're not going to sell shit doing that. Okay, it's disrespectful in first place, and it's ridiculous. Like, you go up and you introduce yourself. All right, you don't fucking carry a sign. Second of all, if you introduce yourself, stick with one name. Can you imagine like me going to a prospect and then saying like, "Hey, this is Ballface 8020," or sorry, "This is Ballface 8020. Oh yeah, I also go by Mark." It's like, well, why are you? Why would I do that? Why would I give the prospects two names? No, I say like, ding, ding, hello, hey, this is Ballface 8020 calling from, whatever. So that's what I would do. I would say like, I'd ditch the whole sign thing, all right, and I would go right over to the Grump, and I would say, hello, my name is Ballface 8020. Power pause. I'm gonna wait, and then going to see, is he going to say hello? Is he going to give me his name? Something like that. But first thing I'm going to do is just introduce myself like that. I'm definitely not going to do it with the sign. And honestly, I think like on one thing in hand, the sign is arrogance and just bad manners, but it can show like a lack of confidence. Like you can't even do like a simple power pause, a simple like introduction. So he starts off with that. Second of all, I think there is a huge problem of not even asking for the guy's name. You have to say something like, I didn't get your name, or like, or just like, could I have your name, or what was your name again? Something like that. Like, I get the feeling of not pushing it, like let it come out. But that's the thing. During the entire book, the name never comes out, which tells me that rapport hasn't been built. And that's like another part of sales. So let's get into that beginning. He introduces himself I think the introduction is already problematic, and I think it's like a hugely problematic, not just like a subtle problem. Like, this is not how you introduce yourself. But then he goes right into the pitch. Like, how would you feel if somebody came up to you? Let's forget about the ridiculous signing. They came up to you and were like, "Hey, buy this green eggs and ham." It's like, dude, excuse me. Like, what makes you think I'm even interested in green eggs and ham? Because ultimately, what your job is as a sales. I know that salespeople have bad reputations. Some of it's deserved, some of it's not. But ultimately, your job as a salesman is to solve their problem. There's two problems. One, does the prospect have a problem that you can solve for them? Two, how can you solve it? Now, those are the two things. So the first thing that I would have done is, after I'm introducing, hey, I'm Ballface 8020, I'm going to try to get his name. Depends on what he says. So I think it would probably be something like, hello, Ballface 8020, or hello, maybe, hello, my name is Bill, something like that. Then what I'm going to do next for that is saying like, well, Bill, and maybe if he doesn't say his name, I'm going to say, well, Mr. I'm going to like leave a blank thing. So maybe say Mr. Stevens or something. Mr. Stevens. I am with a company that sells green eggs and ham, and I'm just, going around to people in the neighborhood, people in this area, and looking to gauge interest. Is green eggs and ham something that you've ever heard of? That's something that you're familiar with? That's how I'm going to start there. I'm going to see if there's anything like, does he know anything about green eggs and ham? Is there maybe a potential need there? But that's like, I'm starting immediately with questions. Okay, Sam I Am asks no question. I mean, he asks questions, but they're like rhetorical. We're going to get into that in a second. So I'm going to be like, Mr. Stevens, I'm with the company, and I'm going canvassing places in this area. We sell green eggs and ham. Green eggs and ham, is that something that you're familiar with? Well, Ballface 8020, I've heard a little bit about it, but it doesn't actually look very appealing to me. Said, yeah, I get that a lot. I'm going to say, okay, now I'm back to myself. Yeah, Mr. Stevens, I understand. I know that the color can put people off. Is that when you say it doesn't look appealing, do you mean the color? Yeah, though the color, and I'm not even sure like if eggs and ham are that good a combination. Okay, here is where I'm going to start to maybe answer some questions. I'm going to be like, okay, yeah, I know I've heard that complaint, but the color is something that I guess you could call it kind of an acquired taste. It maybe looks off at first, but green doesn't mean rotten. I think that's a misconception. Actually, they're much fresher than normal yellow eggs. They're much fresher because the green is a sign that the freshness has been preserved. And the ham, in my opinion, and I think most people's opinion, really enhances the taste. So, what are, like, if you said you're not into green eggs and ham, well, what are you usually eating for breakfast? It talks about, like, oh, well, I like cornflakes and stuff like that. It's like, cornflakes are great. I eat them too. But there's some times where you're going to need a more savory food. So, like, how often are you even eating savory breakfast type things? And you're like, oh, I don't know, like twice a week, twice a week. And instead, and like, what are you having then? Like pancakes and sausages and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, pancakes, sausages. Sometimes I have normal eggs. And it's like, and when you have normal eggs, do you have ham with it? No, I mean, maybe like bacon or something. So, right, yeah. A lot of people have bacon with it, and that's great. But, ham is is something that I don't know if I want to say it works better with the eggs than bacon, but it's just a different thing. It's just a different type of change up. And it's something that when you try, most people are really happy with it and end up using it a lot. So this green eggs and ham, is it something that you would be willing to consider? That's where I'm going to start the closing. Now, look, I admit I'm not a closing guy. All right, I'm not. So if that closing thing sounds weak, like it sounds like what I'm trying to do right here is build rapport with the Grump and call him Mr. Stevens, which Sam I Am didn't even bother to get his name. But I want to ask questions, build rapport. I want to find out. So when you're asking questions, you're doing two things. First of all, what I would say is, don't ever ask questions for the sake of asking questions, all right? They'll know what you're doing. You're just wasting their time. It's stupid. Ask questions because you really are trying to find out, like, does this guy have a problem that I can help solve? And how am I going to solve it? And that you're only going to do that from asking questions. However, it's got another thing too, which is building rapport. Making this guy, like, build some type of connection, or girl, build some kind of type of connection with you. And you want him to know that that you understand his need, and that you are really trying to solve it. Because if he doesn't know that you know what his problem is, and that you are making a good faith effort to solve it, all he sees of you is somebody pushing something that he doesn't even want, pushing to take his money in exchange for something he doesn't even want, which is what Sam I Am does in the book. So Sam I Am ends up wasting like tens of hours and thousands of dollars trying to push this stuff. He never doesn't ask any. He does ask questions, but they're always questions like, will you eat them in a box? Will you eat them on a train? It's like, dude, Sam, what the fuck difference does the location make for, like, whether he likes green eggs and ham or not, whether Mr. Stevens likes green eggs and ham or not? Like, if somebody says to me, like, hey, do you like apples? And I say no. It's like, oh, really? You don't like apples? Well, what if I cram you into a box with, like, a hyena? Will you eat apples then? It's like, well, no. What the hell difference does that make? The location or the animals I'm surrounded with has nothing to do with whether I like the taste or not. Okay? No, if you want to, what you want to do is, like, explain how the green eggs and ham is going to be appealing. Maybe, like, dude, I don't know, to make some type of effort, like, put it on a nicer plate, put some garnish with it, maybe, like, have some applesauce, have it with a nice soda or something. Sam I Am doesn't do any of that shit. All he does, the entire book, is just change the location. And Mr. Stevens is like, dude, Sam I Am, I don't fucking want the green eggs and ham. I mean, he tells him 100 times. And here's another thing, that's like, when you're doing prospecting and stuff. When you're doing prospecting, I want to get to know as quickly as possible, because here are the facts. Most people do not want what I'm selling. I go into selling understanding that they do not want to buy my product. Period. I get that. They don't have a need for it, or if they do have a need for it, they don't understand that they have a need for it. Both of those are the same thing. No. That's no, okay? So, and I've actually lost sales jobs for this, or lost one sales job for this. To me, in sales, no means no. Okay? Now, I might push a little bit after the second, like, to make sure that, like, it's totally gone. But to me, if somebody gives me a hard no, like the Grump does, or Mr. Stevens, whatever we call him, gives to Sam I Am, he gives not just one, but multiple hard no's. No, I am not interested. I do not like green eggs and ham, period. Well, guess what? While you're, like, badgering this guy, which is fucking rude as shit, you're missing other sales because ultimately it's a numbers game. You need to be getting those no's, because every time you're spending on talking to a no, that's time that you could be going out looking for somebody who does want your product. Like Sam I Am spends what was 10 hours, 15 hours trying to push green eggs and ham on this one guy. How many sales did he lose out? How many people were out there who did want green eggs and ham, who Sam I Am didn't have a chance to get to now because of that? So here's what the thing, so the book is, he keeps at it. He bulldozes through 15 different no's, doesn't give up, and then finally at the end, Mr. Stevens is like, you know what, whatever, dude, I'll eat the fucking green eggs and ham, all right? And he eats the green eggs and ham, and he really likes them. But okay, and then here's another problem. It's dude, anybody can just go and give shit away. All right. The hard part of closing is getting them to sign and part with the money. The guy doesn't actually pay for anything. All he did is get him to try. It's now if Sam I Am had said something like, okay, well, this green eggs and ham, they only come in shipments of 1,000 a piece, and you need to sign this contract right here today for a $5,000 order, then he would have at least accomplished something. But essentially, all Sam I Am did was give out a free sample. And that's not somebody who's fighting you just for a free sample. That's not somebody who you want as a client. They're going to be difficult to work with and shit. So unless there was some crack or something in the green eggs and ham that were making them addictive. I don't know. The book didn't say anything about that. So anyway, where was I? The green eggs and ham stuff. Well, I don't know. I think you kind of get the idea, though. From basically what Sam I Am accomplished was just wasting a bunch of time, really wasting the other guy's time. I guess it worked out for him because he got those free crack green eggs and ham. But then, he comes back and so then for Sam I Am to act like it's some kind of triumph, and then for the people to be saying oh wow, this just shows how you have to try to stick with it. It's no, it shows you how to be fucking rude. So it's for me, what I would do with the rejections is, once I get to the firm, no, I do not like green eggs and ham. I'm not even going to try a second thing. I said there will be times where I get if a no that definitive, I'm not even going to push anything else. I'm not even going to push, because some people will say okay, we'll push a second time, try to get them to ask well, let me ask you a question. What would you say the biggest problem with your breakfast is? Your breakfast selection is? Price? It's not savory enough? Something like that? Look, I'm not telling you that doesn't work, because people have had success with it. But personally, I'm not going to do something that I'm that uncomfortable with. To me, that's pushy in its root. I get a firm no, I do not like green eggs and ham. That's done. I'm on to the next house. That's just my opinion, and that's not sales. Or again, I think most salespeople would tell you, no, you got to push. But here's the real thing, right? It's more of an art than a science. All right, so you just kind of have to feel it. You should be able to feel okay, is there some potential here, or is this guy not going to budge? And that depends on personality type, how he's interacting with you. What you think of the product. And again, even in this case, I think it's a good example, actually, because, Sam I Am keeps pushing, and it turns out that Mr. Stevens loves green eggs and ham. Well, this happens, right? When you're in sales, you'll be trying to sell something, and you've got the solution for their problem. This product is going to make them money. You know it. But you don't push a no, because ultimately, buying a product, people don't buy products. There's this saying that people buy with emotion and justify with logic. Total oversimplification. Not really accurate, but there's truth to it. Buying is an emotion. Somebody, they might just not be mentally. They may logically be yeah, green eggs and ham are right for me, but emotionally, I'm just not feeling it. Well, dude, sales is all about feeling it. That's why I would say that's how it is. It's more of an art than a science. It's all about feeling it for the seller and for the buyer. And if somebody's not feeling it, they're not feeling it. It's over. It would be it was like PUA stuff that they would say. Like, can you imagine for like PUA, a girl saying like no, and then you keep pushing like those losers you see online? No, you go in, you gauge the interest, and then once you get a no, or even it's not feeling, you get out of there and move on to the next. Now, don't get me wrong, don't do any PUA stuff either, like ever. But it's the same type of thing, you know. Um, so that's really what I think it's all about. So really, I guess what I just want to say is like people who are saying that this is the greatest sales book ever. I mean, dude, you're fucking stupid. You're stupid. I don't really know what else to say. Like, you probably, the people who are saying this, they're probably all better salesmen than me. I make like $25 an hour, so I'm not a very good salesman. And but that, like, I know stupidity when I see it. And the salesman, what you see in Green Eggs and Ham, the Green Eggs and Ham promotes bad salesmanship. Period. It is bad. Do not take it as a guide of how to sell stuff. The only practical use I could see for a book like Green Eggs and Ham is actually, believe it or not, I actually think would be an okay children's book, because it has like lots of rhymes and very simple words and stuff. And like, so like that's the only use I could see for like a book this ridiculous, you know? Like, I mean, like, dude, let me put it this way. Casey Zander could outsell Dr. Seuss. That's seriously what I think. Like, the book is that bad. That's all for now, and I'll see you in the next.